Hey everyone, welcome back to Purpose to Love. My name is Randy, and today I just want to give you guys a quick update on the progress we've made with the seedlings we started a couple weeks ago. And so if you remember, I planted 6 pots total. 3 of the pots were peppers and 3 of the pots were tomatoes, and I put 2 seeds in each pot, and we just started from scratch with those guys. And then also we did some transplanting, and we were transplanting some red lettuce and some kale. And we did like 3 bunches of the red lettuce and 3 bunches of the kale outside and 3 bunches of the kale inside. We'll wait to talk about that later, but they're doing okay. But I really want to just focus today on the seedlings, because really cool things started to emerge as they were growing, and some thoughts I had. So I just wanted to share that with you. So let's get started. So as you can see here, we have some movement. One of our guys is finally popping up. I'm really excited. I've been having to move them into my bedroom in the evening because it's a little warmer in my room than like the windowsill here in the kitchen, because it gets a little drafty. So the rest of them are not growing, or at least we can't see them growing as of yet. But just an encouragement, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening underneath the soil. So we just have to be a little bit more patient and wait for the rest of these guys to come up as well. We hope, right? So yay, some movement, exciting. And guys, all this movement you're seeing right here with them growing up out of the soil happened in a few hours. So it's really cool. So if you're anything like me and a little bit impatient, planting and growing things from seed might be a little difficult because you get excited and you want to see the growth. You want to see, the leaves start to form and everything happen like right away. And so, but with planting, with growing things, obviously things have to take their time. Everything has a specific time when it grows, and the environment shapes in which way and how fast things grow. So, but it still can be a little frustrating or a little concerning, especially if you don't see something growing when you feel like it's supposed to have grown by now. And so with the seedlings that we had, the tomato plants popped up first. As you can see in the pictures that I just showed you, it first had its little head right underneath the soil, and it was just coming up. And I got so excited because it kind of reminded me of a story I'm going to share in a few seconds. I will try to keep it short, but it just reminded me of this particular story with a student I had, and the amount of effort and energy I was pouring into this student, and I was getting weary, and but just like that seedling, I was giving it sunlight and water and the proper care and attention it needed, and for a while I didn't see anything, and I got a little worried. But then it started to poke its head out of the soil, and I got so excited. I'm like, oh yay, it's working, And there's something to be said about patience, right? And waiting, because just underneath the surface, you never know what's happening underneath, and what's taking place, what's starting to take root. And so all the energy and effort you're pouring into your student or your child or your colleague or friend or family member, and you think it's like a waste of time. You never know what's starting to brew underneath. So it's a matter of waiting and patiently waiting. So yeah, if I had just, given up on the seedling, or just, fell into doubt that I was doing the wrong thing or what I was doing wasn't working, and I just gave up on the process so early. And I know you're like, well, Randy, it's only a couple weeks, but in my head still, I was like, is it working? Is it working? Like, am I doing it right? There's just a level of kind of insecurity. Like, I don't know if I'm doing this whole thing right. And I wish I could see if the effort in the watering and the time I'm spending, like putting in the right sunlight or moving it here or doing this, that, and the other is actually working. But you can't see it unless you dig it up but then you know, you kind of mess up the process of the seedling starting to grow and take root. So so it's just, you know, a really good reminder for us to you know, to practice patience and, you know, grow in confidence of, if you know you're doing the right thing, or if you've seen it work before, you know you're doing the right thing, like really being confident about the process, you know, not doubting yourself, and sticking with it, being consistent and doing whatever you need to do to follow through with the process. And in time, like the seedling, you know, you'll see the actual tangible evidence of your efforts. And so it will be really rewarding, and you'll be excited and proud of yourself for waiting as long as you did. So, and again, I know it's only 2 weeks, but I still was like, ah. And the other thing too, like my other seedlings, as you can see, I only have 2 tomato plants up out of the 3. And then there's nothing happening with the peppers yet. So I don't know what the process is for that. I feel like it's around the same time. So I don't know why they're not growing. They're getting the exact same environment, but I don't know, trial and error. Good morning, all. I just wanted to share with you, I think I recorded the other day that the peppers weren't growing, but this morning I woke up and these little guys were making their way up to the sun, and so that was so fun to see that this morning. There's 2 of them there. This guy, 1 and 2. I don't know if you can tell, but yeah. Isn't that exciting? So yeah, we have peppers. They're growing. Super exciting. So I just wanted to show you guys real quick that I had to transplant one of my tomato plants. He was growing on the side of the pot and it was really weird, so I just wanted to move him over. And also the other tomato plant that I have is really tall and growing really nicely. He was really leggy, very long and thin, and as the tomato plant gets longer and taller, they will eventually kind of like keel over because they're going to be top heavy. So I had to just plant him a little deeper inside the pot, so I had to transplant him or just replant him in the pot. So that's what you see me doing here. So I just wanted to give you a quick story on this whole process of, you know, or the visual of like planting a seed and like waiting for it to, you know, germinate and sprout, and then seeing the evidence of all the love and labor I was pouring into it in more of a tangible example. So with my student, I was teaching at a school, in a high school, and I had a student and actually knew the student beforehand. So I'm thinking, oh, this will be on the easier side. He knows me. This transition won't be as hard. But on the contrary, it was very difficult. It was challenging. And it was a really rough year for him and me and the rest of the students in that class. This particular student had a visual impairment. He was blind, but he also had aphasia. If you're not familiar with that, it's unrecognizable speech. He actually had like a tone, like he would say, instead of saying Randy, he would say eh-e. Like he knew how to get the sound. Though he had aphasia, and he also had a lot of like behavioral challenges, you know, and a lot of that was due to communication or just cognitive ability, because he also had a cognitive disability as well. So there was a lot we were working with there, and I knew him to be a fun, sweet, easygoing, sort of, for the most part, kind of a student. But when he would get upset, I knew what that looked like too. And so we were seeing more of him being upset and frustrated and overwhelmed because he was in a new space. He had to learn as you know, he had to learn his new way around the school. So mobility was an issue, was challenging for him. He didn't know where he was going, new sounds, new smells, new people, new voices. So it was very overwhelming. So with that said, being in the classroom was really hard for him. And I actually couldn't get him to do any work at all in the classroom. And he wasn't like doing a ton of work in the classroom, you know, in his previous class, but I knew he could do more than what he was giving me. And so that was a bit of a fight too. And so I created this plan to, you know, get him to get on track, get back on track, and because he had regressed so much. And I knew it would work. I just had, it was going to take time because there was nothing else that could really work. So I knew the plan that I had in place would work, and I just had to stick with it, you know. And for the rest of that school year, it was getting better-ish towards the end, but it was still hard. And then come the beginning of the second year that I was teaching him, I continued to stick with the program. Like, I kept a routine. I added some more sensory involved activities. Like, we had a ceiling swing. He would swing on for a little bit, this big peanut bouncing ball, so he would bounce on that. And then I would have him move to the rocking chair that had like a little seat massager, and he would rock on that and like let the massager go for a minute or two. We would turn on that or turn that off, and then he would work on his schedule and some other activities and classroom assignments with me in the rocking chair. And then eventually I was able to slowly transition him. I was able to cut down those other sensory routines and then slowly transition him back into the classroom. And, you know, before I knew it, like after a few months, so it was in total probably like a year and a half, like a year and a few months before I actually started to see the little seedling head poke up out of the soil, before I began to see him transform and grow. And eventually I started to see progress. He started to grow. And before I knew it, he was actually in the classroom for most of the time that we had together. And it was such a huge accomplishment to see him progress in that way. Unfortunately, his parents decided to switch schools. But just to know that he and I made it through it, and that with patience, consistency, you know, and confidence in the program I had in place for him, knowing that it was working, but it was just slow, you know, he grew, you know, and he started to develop and become successful in the classroom. So that is my example of, you know, how I could kind of relate the seedling to that. It just had me reminded of the process, you know, of waiting and pouring into and just being patient through the hard, challenging process. But it was good, and he was happy, you know, I was happy, the rest of the class was happy, you know, that we were all able to kind of get in a better space. So yeah, patience, guys. We have to have patience and be confident in the process, and to not grow weary in doing well. So I just want to leave you guys with a picture here of 2 tomato plants on the left and 2 pepper plants on the right. Super excited. Just thank you again so much for coming with me on this journey and growing a little patio garden. But again, thank you for your time, your support. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. Share it with someone who likes plants. And just remember, you are purpose to love. And I'll see you guys next time. All right, bye.